right, welcome in everybody to the first edition of the Made Society Speaker Series with our special guest, ESPN's Monica McNutt. If you're in the New York area, you've seen her on MSG Networks as well on the radio. She and I worked together for a time at NBC Sports. Rising star in the industry, former player at Georgetown, and someone who I think in the coming years here you will see in even more places and platforms, from Get Up in the Morning on ESPN to sideline and color analysis and play-by-play during games at night. So, Monica, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to see you, Dylan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody who's on now, they saw that we were bringing you on. This is going to be the first episode in a series where we bring people from across basketball on to talk about their journeys, their careers, insights and things that they have into how they made it in the industry, how their basketball journey came to be. And so we're just going to have a conversation. We'll go for half an hour here, a little bit of biographical stuff with you, Monica, a little bit of advice from you to everyone. And we'll have a little bit of fun too at the end with some questions that people submit. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So let's start from where your basketball journey began in the DC area. You went to Georgetown. You were a team captain. What led you to Georgetown? What, honestly made you fall in love with basketball?
Falling in love with basketball goes back to my dad, for sure. He was a high school referee probably since I was born. And I used to tag along with him to games throughout the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And so that was where I first kind of fell for the game. And then I remember very vividly 1996, the WNBA launching behind the Olympic team, being a huge Washington Mystics fan, like Shamika Holdsclaw, Nikki McCray, Penny Toller, like all those guys. Never wanted to miss a WNBA game, kind of building my schedule around that in the summer and sharing that love with my dad. Then like in third grade, I guess this is around third grade, I'm like, Dad, I want to play ball. And I remember him saying, do you want to be good or do you just want to play? And the decision was to be good. And it kind of ensued Saturday morning practices, like various sacrifices because we were in the gym working on our crafts all the way through college. And yeah, like that's kind of how it went. And the game has given me so much. I'm so very thankful. But I still to this day kind of measure how badly I'm willing to work at something based on, or comparing it to, I should say, how badly I worked at the craft when I was playing.
That was something that somebody had asked as well, which was basically, what sorts of things did you learn growing up, becoming a basketball player, playing in college, that have allowed you, as you move into your career now in broadcasting, have helped drive you, shape you, help you get better, continue to grow in that profession as much as you did when you were on the court?
Definitely hard work, right? Like being able to power through adversity, being able to communicate, teamwork, like resiliency, all the things that sports teach you. But I think for me, the umbrella under which all these other things will fall under is just basic hard work. Knowing that you need to develop the skill, spending the time to develop such skills, seeking out those who can teach you the skill, definitely hard work. But I think today, I'm not in the field I'm in without the opportunity to play basketball, or at least not as an analyst. Who knows what would have happened otherwise. But also communicating, understanding that communicating is less about you and more about the audience with which you're trying to communicate, right? Like teamwork, being able to take and give constructive criticism and feedback. I literally, y'all, to this day, now that I'm like in a professional space, I'm 35 in October, there's two types of people in the professional world. People that play team sports at a high level and people that didn't. Like you can see it time and time again.
Yeah, no doubt. We've got here at Made, we've got a team full of people who played team sports together, and it comes through in what we do every day, because obviously we're serving people who are living out their dream, playing in these events every weekend. So that definitely drives a lot of people here too. So, all right, let's cross that bridge between your playing career to now you're getting into media. That was around when you and I crossed paths at NBC. We were both desk producers at NBC Sports, a lot of late nights cutting Wizards highlights and Capitals highlights and all different sorts of things on the desk. And then you left NBC, and that's where it really seems like things took off for you. The thing that to me is most impressive is that you got off the ground with your broadcasting career, your on-camera career, and everybody kind of thinks it's this linear path that is just kind of, carries you forward for someone who's in a position like you. But actually, there were bumps along the way. There were difficulties. So, for everybody who thinks that you start at one job, you go to the next job, you step up, step up, step up. Walk through your path a little bit as you broke into the on-camera and the analyst world, to just give some insight into maybe how many trials and tribulations you run through by the time that you get to the point where you are now.
Man, I'm actually trying to think of my timeline with what was formerly CSN Washington. Because I think I interned in undergrad there. It was my first foray. Stayed connected. I think I came back after grad school, or maybe right before grad school. I think I came back before grad school, maybe partly during, and that's when you and I were together. But then when I graduated from grad school, I landed a job at Prince George's Community College as a photographer, not even as a reporter and on camera primarily, but as a photographer / sports reporter. And while Prince George's Community Television was a great opportunity to get reps, y'all, like, it was not glamorous. It was me lugging around a giant camera, like not updated equipment, shooting a college, high school football, high school basketball, cutting highlights on, antiquated systems. But I got those reps there, and then I went on to what is now, I believe, WJLA 24/7, ABC 7 cable station. I was working there as an MMJ, doing a series called Pay It Forward, which I very vividly remember, and then shooting sports, doing the sports desk. And then I got laid off. And I remember when Sinclair came in and bought that station, I was like, oh, you guys don't make enough money. Don't worry. And they eliminated, it was three of us. They eliminated our position. And it was like, whoa. But at that time, I had done some work for the high school football championship, played up at M&T Bank Stadium, and met some people there, made a few calls when I got laid off. And honestly, I had, in theory, my next step before I even got paid out from JLA. So I took that job, moved down to Florida with the Upstart College Sports Network entity. Hot mess, honestly, in hindsight. But again, another great training ground where I got tons of reps, low viewership, work on your craft, work through mistakes without getting crushed. And then I got laid off from there. So, like, this is like 2 layoffs in a span of 3 years for me. And I remember taking a road trip up from Florida back to DC and pulling up to my parents' house, like, in tears, because this is not the way that I envisioned it, right? Like, I left DC already. I wasn't coming back. I was going to bigger, better things. I was going to bounce from market to market and get to national in my next 3 jobs. Like, I had a whole plan. And baby, it didn't go that way. So then for me, faith is a big part of who I am. So the 18 months that I could not land a job was a big experiment, or I should say exercise, in separating who I was from what I did. Because if I never came back to being a sports reporter the way I envisioned, I realized that I could still have a full and beautiful life, right? But that was tough because you are so closely attached to what you do for a living. You poured your heart and soul into it. It's literally your face on a camera. But in that window, y'all, it was such a beautiful time because I got to play in an adult basketball league with my teammates and friends from Georgetown. Like, I was around for my grandparents. My goddaughter was like, I got to do all these quality family things that I do not have the time to do now. And so even that season of my life, I really savor it because it was special in the grand scheme of things. But the other part, in terms of work, that was the season where I really learned how to freelance. Because I hadn't been taught how to freelance. It was like, okay, put your reel together, you're going to get a job, then you'll hop from market to market until you get national. In my graduate program, shout out to University of Maryland, it's a great program, I still recommend it, but we had not been taught how to freelance. And so I learned that the first step was to let people know that you are interested, capable, and available, right? And so then I started to put together this little network. I was working for CBS, did some stuff with NBC, Fox, FS1. Like, I was putting together this local, still working local, like just putting together this thing. And it started to gain some momentum that really took me through for about a year and some change until ESPN made a legitimate offer. So it has not been linear for sure.
Yeah, a winding road for sure. And now you're here. and we see you in a lot of places. I made sure to write down as many things as I could remember you seeing you on, because the list is long. Knicks radio color, TV color commentary for NBA and ESPN, sideline, around the horn, first take. You do women's basketball, you do women's college basketball, WNBA. You've done things surrounding kind of the National Dog Show, which is amazing. You really have gone in all these different directions. Your versatility is impressive. That's always something that gets preached on the court, right? Too, is versatility. How many positions can you play? How many positions can you guard? Can you take on a role? Is that something that, as you approached this national platform that you have, that you wanted to be able to do a little bit of everything in case an opportunity came up where you could do this, that, or the other thing, and really now you're doing a conglomerate of all sorts of things?
100%, Dylan. I think for me, I can remember when I decided to go to grad school, my thought process was I didn't want to be pigeonholed as just an analyst, right? Now, granted, I'm working as an analyst now, but if you need me to host a show or write a package or do a feature or interview somebody, like, I have all of those skills. Some of them are natural, and I thank God for those, but they're also, I went through a graduate program to get prepared to do this. And so I thought very much your versatility would potentially make you more indispensable, because the landscape of the industry is constantly changing, and that's just the facts of it, right? So for me, an ability to wear all different hats has made me better at each role, because I've been the play-by-play. If I have to jump in because I've been the color analyst, if I have to jump in at play-by-play, I know how not to step on my play-by-play guy. Or if I have to host a show with other analysts, I know as an analyst how I want to be teed up by the host. Like, being able to intertwine and interweave all of those skills for me has helped me to be better.
No doubt. Being that you've been able to do so many different things, I'm sure you've got a range of these sorts of stories, but I'm interested to know, once you got to ESPN and started to do more things at MSG as well, do you have kind of a pinch me moment that you can remember where you look back on the trials and tribulations that you went through trying to build this career, and now suddenly you're here and XYZ thing happens and it kind of dawns on you that you really have gotten to an impressive place?
So I had one this year, the most recent one. I had a chance to call TV games for MSG, and Mike Green, who's also the voice of the NBA nationally for ESPN, is also the voice of the Knicks. And we were doing a call in Golden State. The Knicks played fantastic. They ended up beating the Knicks. And Deuce McBride got a Mike Green bang on the call. And I'm sitting next to him, and I'm like, what like other world, parallel universe am I living in that I'm sitting next to the guy that just that bang, like this iconic call?
Yep.
Like, that was a very surreal moment. And then I think my first, I don't know what jumps out? Nothing really jumps out while I was at ESPN. I've had some good moments. I remember my first summer league and how much energy I had for that. I think working Celebrity All-Star is always hilarious and fun. I will say this, my first Celebrity All-Star was working in radio. Was that my first one? Yeah, that was my first one in Cleveland. And it was the 75 honorees, the NBA 75. Yep. And like Michael Jordan walks by and like nods at me. And I was like, is that me? Like, and he like nods at me. Same thing happened with Jay-Z during the finals at Golden State at Chase Center. Charles Barkley walks up to me and is like, you do a really good job. So those moments mean a lot because these are basketball people that I respect. And I have friends who are like, you guys are in these people's homes. Like, it was only me and Jay-Z walking in the hallway, so it clearly was for me. And like, shout out to him for just being a human, right? But it was like, my friends are like, you are in these people's homes. They really feel like they know you. I was on an elevator with Lloyd and didn't recognize him because he's so tiny. And then I came back, I was like, oh no, you like Lloyd. And like, he's like, keep going, Queen. Like, it is really, really dope and warm, the reception that I've gotten from people that I really respect now. And I'll be honest, though, that also comes with another side of the coin where Twitter is nasty. You're not everybody's cup of tea, and so you want to be fortified and strong of who you are. But I think people that go out of their way to give me kudos, people that I know and admire, is like super dope.
That's really cool. You hit an interesting point there with sort of the other side of the coin. It makes me think of kids coming up and playing basketball too, where you deal with Twitter criticism, think people that aren't being constructive in their feedback. A lot of kids, especially with video footage everywhere and cell phones and everything, that sometimes they're on the wrong side of getting dunked on or getting crossed up or things like that. And, Twitter goes crazy, Instagram, TikTok goes crazy. How do you as a professional handle when there are negative things like that? Obviously, the first rule of thumb is don't read the comments, but a lot of times it's hard to box out that noise. How do you deal with the other side of the criticism that's just not constructive? You're muted. Sorry.
Thank you, Dan. I will be honest, I had to self-regulate, if that word is appropriate here. Because I think two things are true. Fan is short for fanatic. Do with that what you may. And two, I'm a woman in the space. I think for me, observing to a degree some of the stuff that my male counterparts dealt with, I was able to delineate or begin to delineate fan who just strongly disagrees that I picked against the Warriors. Cool. It's trash talk, whatever, as long as it's not disrespectful. And then there is some of the things that take a nasty turn in terms of being misogynistic, racist, sexist, all that kind of stuff, right? And so for me, I have been able to give grace to fans. Fans are just passionate. They're ridiculous. And frankly, I didn't get the truth time I checked no way, so go off doing, right? I personally don't really subscribe to clapping back. I went through a little stretch of that. Sure. But then was ultimately like, whatever, I'm not giving these people my interview. And I think for me, there are so many women now. I'm so thankful for the sisterhood that we really developed. We support one another, that I've just continued to grow. And I mentioned to y'all, I'll turn 35 in October. And so I'm just in a different place mentally, completely affirmed that who I am, that stuff, I can let it roll off my back. Now, I will say there are occasions where if I make a mistake, mispronounce a name, and Twitter jumps on me, like, I don't acknowledge it. Depending on how egregious it may or may be. If I made a mistake, I need to be better, right? And I'll use the women's tournament last year as an example. I was mispronouncing a player's name, and that was not my intention at all. I didn't necessarily respond to that person on Twitter, but I was like, "Oh, let me get this right?" And they actually ended up tweeting me, "Thank you for getting it right," after the fact. So you have to find the balance for you. I know people that have gotten off of X, now Twitter. I know people that have their privacy settings very high, their filters in terms of blocked content very high. And so you have to really figure out what works for you. And like we started these conversations, Dan and friends, you cannot escape doing the work. You have to do the work. And if you are doing the work and growing in your craft, then you will feel more and more assured in what you're doing and be able to let that stuff roll off your back like a duck does work.
Sure, no doubt. And it's funny to see, our generation grew up in social media and we're kind of shaped by it. But there are things about today's version of social media that kids 12 through 18 are coming up in that I can't even imagine. So, it's a lot of times it's just trying to understand, like you said, delineating between constructive feedback and stuff that's just meant to troll and start conversation, whatever. So it's difficult. It's something that you learn along the way. And I know it weighs heavily on a lot of younger kids' minds because social is such a big part of what they do. So that perspective is definitely an interesting one. All right. So had a couple rapid fire modern basketball questions for you, and then we'll end with one final question that I want to make the cherry on top of all these episodes that we do. So let's just run through. We talked about your versatility. You touch basically every level of basketball. So I would want to have you give us your favorite player to watch at all these different levels. So who is your favorite NBA player to watch right now?
Ooh, I'm super biased because I obviously travel with this team, and I don't think this guy's getting all the credit that he deserves. But I've really enjoyed watching Jalen Brunson this season.
Yep, no doubt. Also being in the New York area, the conversation around him has been burning hot around here, and any anti-Jalen sentiment in the national media has been met accordingly. And you've having been here as well. So, all right, in the WNBA, and let's go players that weren't just drafted. So players that played in the previous WNBA season.
A'ja Wilson is so powerful. She's so powerful and versatile on both sides of the ball. Her game is beautiful. I go to the battle of the MVPs last year, right? Brianna Stewart's game is as beautiful, a little bit different, but I would have to go those two. They come top of mind.
Good choices. Asia is starting to branch out into broadcasting too, and I think she does a nice job. Media, different appearances and things like that. I think she's got a career, post-playing career as well. She does a nice job.
Yeah, Asia or Leah?
I've seen there's so many podcasts and everything now. Maybe she was just on a podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, Asia will definitely make her podcast round. So she has a great personality. She was just named one of Time's most 100 most influential people. But I don't know that she's doing traditional media unless you know something I don't.
Right. Yeah. I think it was podcast or something in that realm, which at this point is going to end up being traditional media before we really know.
Hello, facts.
All right, men's college basketball tournament just finished up. Who did you like watching this year?
Favorite? I really didn't follow men's college basketball closely at all. The kid at Klingen at UConn was as dominant as predicted. But this year, probably the first year in a long time that I really can't say that I sat down and watched a single men's college basketball game. Yeah,
no, fair. It's I think it's because it was dominated by women's this year, right? Like that's where it felt like all the national conversation was. So who was Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese? Probably the two easiest answers for your favorite women's player or the most talked about. But was there anybody else in the women's game that you really loved to watch when they were on this year?
Hannah Hidalgo and Malaysia Fawali. Hidalgo is at Notre Dame. Fawali is at South Carolina. Similar to Caitlin Clark, like, I don't know if I can say this, sorry if I can trouble, but the balls that these girls playing with, like, they just out there doing crazy things that you be like, you actually went for it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Hidalgo is a terrific defender. Malaysia Fawali is probably the most confident hooper on the planet. I would also put Madison Booker in there, the freshman out of Texas. Women's college basketball, it was so up this year. It was amazing.
Yep, no doubt. All right. So final question that I want to end each of these speaker series with. Having gone through the journey you've gone through, all the people we're going to talk to in subsequent episodes of this will have gone through journeys of their own as well. I'm always interested to know, you at your age right now, having gone through what you've gone through, if you could speak to 18-year-old Monica about what's about to come through the again, trials and tribulations that you're about to go through, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self about anything? Perseverance, how to overcome adversity, any of those things that you think come to mind?
Enjoy each step of the journey and get everything you're supposed to out of it. Because I think at this point, the only thing that I have realized that truly is inevitable is change. And I can remember being at CS and Andre Miller, right? Like one of the producers we worked with, among other guys, but being like, you got to get your season in. You got to get your season in, right? Like you got to give it time. And I was so young and so hungry and so gung-ho. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you really can't fake seasoning. And just like confidence kind of comes with continuing to grow and keep on living, as my mom and grandma used to say, you get better with your craft the more you have the opportunity to do it. And so I think for me, I'm focused both professionally and personally on soaking up and getting everything I'm supposed to get out of the season that I'm in, because the seasons are inevitably going to change.
Yep, absolutely. And it's always interesting too. You probably keep that with you in your back pocket, even as you're doing things that people see as their dream job. You're in that seat at the NBA draft or wherever, and that's some other person's dream job, but you're still getting your seasoning because you want to continue to grow in that role and you're soaking everything up like a sponge. So it's pretty cool how, as much as life feels super different, there's a lot of things that continue even after you've accomplished as much as you have.
100%. Absolutely right.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you to everybody for joining us. This is our first episode in the books. Monica, thank you for joining us. I know your schedule is packed and we're going into a next playoff run here, hopefully all the way to the finals. We'll see. But thank you for joining us. We will chat, and you always and forever be Made Hoops' first speaker series guest.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Best of luck with the series.
Thanks, Monica. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Bye.